gap wasn't as wide, those areas are like really rich in community. I mean, immigrants, the suburbs, urban area, I mean, it's more a sense of community, and people did feel responsible if they saw somebody breaking into somebody else's house to say something. They would watch people's dogs for free, and they would watch, their neighbors' kids play on the playground if the mom had it. And those things just don't happen anymore, and I think, and not that none of them happen anymore, I'm just saying, like, in general.
Not as much.
Yeah,
And they're not
in general,
institutional, they're kind of random, it's
yeah.
like, whoa, what
It's
is that,
like,
thank you.
It is like an individual, like.
And I think part of that can be contributed to that guilt trap. If I'm staying out late at night worrying about how I'm gonna keep a head over my children's.
Absolutely, you're not gonna be.
Yeah,
worried
I simply don't have the time or the ability to step there and care that you don't have health insurance, because I'm so worried about feeding my kids next week. So I think it can be contributed right back to it.
Alain de Botton, who's a atheist, actually a philosopher, says that government should start borrowing more from religion, in that a lot of religions have figured out how to make us more of a community, or how to make their own followers more of a community, and to get more places that, more restaurants that have just a big table and have to create that sense of community, to have more public funding and public, I can't remember, if you guys are interested in
It's
YouTube.
like compassion is
The
a
compassion.
major, look on page 23 of Reich. Because, what he's talking about is how we have, the rich have segregated themselves from, yeah.
Being rich now means having enough money that you don't have to encounter anyone who needs you.
Yeah.
And he mentions the public option is the inferior option, right? Isn't that what he says?
Wait, say that again?
In reality, oftentimes what we
inadequate.
perceive as the public option is inadequate or
Yeah, I
something
think
like
that's
that.
Yes, yeah, it actually starts on 22.
It's on
I'm sorry, I
Yeah.
don't have it.
Or do you go ahead.
Yours is on 23, it just says the adjective public in public services has often come to mean inadequate.
Yeah.
I think that's
Or
an
I'm
interesting
thinking
outcome.
also on 22, across the nation, the most affluent Americans have been seceding from the rest of the nation into their own separate geographical communities with tax bases or fees that can underwrite much higher levels of service. They've moved into office parks, gated communities, relied increasingly on private security guards instead of public police, which is the issue with Trayvon Martin right now. Sort of part of the issue. Private schools, and, being rich now means having enough money that you don't have to encounter anyone who isn't. The middle class and the poor, meanwhile, rely on public services whose funding is ever more precarious, which is,
Probably because they're not contributing.
because what?
I was just making a facetious comment. Just like the public funding is becoming more and more precarious, probably because the upper 5% aren't contributing.
Well, yeah, this is Marx's isolated monads.
Marx's what?
The isolated monads he talks about in Alienation, or in, on the Jewish question, where, he's saying this is not human life. And, as when we turn to Arendt, which we will do next week, she's big on saying that Reich's plans, for example, although Arendt died long before Reich wrote this, but Reich's plans are not political, even though we read them and we go, hey, good idea, this might work. This is the way to keep capitalism and to manipulate profits so that everybody shares and the system thrives. And Arendt is not so interested in that as in what makes us feel human. And to her, it is, this is also why I'm urging you to read the public and the private sphere. To her, we are most human in public. And, remember Marx in Alienated Labor, where he says what is human becomes animal and what is animal becomes human. And, we think that our most human parts you know, like right now, yeah, here we have our public space, more or less, except it's pretty Puritan street people. But we have a public forum, you know, but we're gonna go home and go, oh, thank God, done, you know, kick off, flip on the TV, do whatever you do, you know, see some friends, eat, drink, procreate. And you go, now I really feel good, you know, I have to show up in class, but now I feel human, although we're trying to flip this. And Arendt is basically agreeing with Marx on that, even though she is, the whole book, The Human Condition, is written as a criticism of economics dominating the way we think. But to her, where we are truly special as a species is not in our private life, where things are safe, hopefully, and controlled, and hopefully comfortable, but when we go out publicly and give voice to what our needs are, whether it's I need an education and you guys are making it impossible for me, or whatever else it might be, that to Arendt, what matters most, we are most human when we are acting politically. I mean, she's our girl for that. She's the one that says that what is distinct about human beings, and it's a form of Aristotelianism, saying man is a polis animal, but where everything memorable happens in life, where we make history, is not in the division of labor, but is in just suiting up and showing up in public. And if, as Reich argues, that what wealth brings us is the ability to withdraw from the public, then wealth is really impoverishing us. Does that make sense? Is it paradox? In other words, Arendt will argue, surely, yes, everybody needs moikas. Everybody needs enough, enough so that if your parents start off in poverty and manage to create a safe environment and become upper middle class, that's fine, as long as other people aren't suffering for your benefit. But for Arendt, that's neither here nor there. To her, what makes us truly human is our ability to act in public, to be plural, to be both diverse and equal, the same and unique. And to her, that's what the magic of political action is. So, and I'm it's kind of an awkward way around maybe asking you to think about the question, because, the question is, if we think of our goals and the only thing that motivates us is accumulating more private wealth, to both Arendt and Marx in quite different ways, what they're saying is that we're dehumanizing ourselves. That what should be motivating us is building a public life that is worthy of fully human beings. That sounds very idealistic. But, it's what she's saying is what is it gonna take for us to reclaim our public political lives, our ability to not, well, you guys are doing it, but it's a struggle, right? I mean, for however long it's been since we decided, okay, you were going to act on something that you care about. It's a real struggle. It's really hard to say, well, what is it that we want to act about? And how are we going to do this together? And we all have different ideas. And, oh no, now we have to talk to each other. Now we have to agree. Now we have 5 weeks left. Oh no, 4 weeks left. We'll never get this together. To our end, that struggle, just to get the energy to put something out in public and say, this is who we are, is what makes us human. So that's kind of where we're going with this. And it's profoundly anti-economic, except in some way you have the ability to move into the public sphere if you have a private sphere. Homeless people are going to have a lot of trouble acting politically.
But the word economics, it isn't about trying to make all the money you possibly can. Like, the word itself isn't I mean, if you look it up in the dictionary, it's all about efficiency and it's about not wasting. We talk about economics like the point of it, like it literally means to accumulate as much wealth as we possibly can, but that's not what it means.
Very, very nice, Todd. Yeah, 'cause you know, and what our rent is gonna teach us, or try to teach us, is, that, yeah, maybe what economics is having enough so that you don't have to worry about animal necessities. If you're starving, you can't act politically. If you're homeless, you can't act politically, she says. I don't know if she's right, but, you know, if you have just enough so that your oikos is nomos, you know, really, if it's orderly, if you're safe, if there's a place you can retreat to each night and count on being safe and warm and fed and loved, then what heroism is, what action is, what being human is about, is using that as a launching pad to say, what really counts is making the public world a better place, whatever we decide that is. So that, you know, political action becomes the definition of human existence for America. So, next week,